Hi, everyone. Welcome to Riot's Lunch and Learn series. You have found us, the place where we feature all of Riot's partners. My name is Caroline Griffin. I'm Riot's Director of Operations, and I'm super excited to have Amplifi Labs here with us today. Before I hand it over to John, who will then hand it over to Paulo, just a couple of quick reminders. This session, as you may have heard, is being recorded. It will be posted to Riot's YouTube channel and then posted to the meetup group where you registered for this event. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please utilize the chat box and we will make sure to get to as many of those questions as possible at the end of the presentation. To that end, please do keep yourself muted so there are no disruptions during the event. And then the last reminder is the best way to view this presentation is in speaker view. So if you go to the top right and choose speaker view, that'll give you a really big view of Paulo's presentation and then the speaker on the right side. But without further ado, like I said, I'm super excited to have Amplifi Labs here with us today, and I will hand it over to John.
Thank you very much, Caroline. Thanks everybody for joining us today. We're going to be talking about Web3 and answering a very simple question. That question is Web3 production ready? I'm just going to be speaking here at the very beginning. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Amplifi Labs. Paulo Rieck, the man, the myth, the legend. He is our CTO. He's co-founder as well, and he'll be doing the bulk of the presentation today. I'll just give a little brief overview of who we are, and then we'll jump right in. So Amplifi Labs, in essence, is a software product development shop. We do staff augmentation as well. We'll act as fractional CTOs for some of our customers. We have various teams, including UI, UX, machine learning, AI, application development, including server-side, web, and mobile. We also invest in some of our customers under special circumstances. So we'll act as a venture studio sometimes. And we really want to be long-term partners. That's sort of our philosophy. We don't act as transactional folks who, just do work, get paid, and then move on. We value relationships both internally, and we value relationships externally very heavily as well. Without further ado, Mr. Paulo Rieck will be going over Web3 and the journey to answer our question.
All right, thank you very much, John and Caroline. So our scope today is we'll talk about what is Web3, also what is it not, right? Why is Web3 important? Exploring the architecture. We'll run a quick demonstration of an implementation of a static website. We'll talk about the current challenges that exist in this area. Also, we'll answer the final question, is Web3 ready for production? And also we'll talk about the future. So I promise that this journey will be like a roller coaster. So we'll have good and bad moments, and let's see the outcomes. I'm pretty sure that it will surprise some people, some others not. So I think it's worth to mention that this is an independent analysis. We try to apply many of those technologies that we will mention here. And we did a lot of research as well. So yeah, this is our perspective about this. Maybe someone will disagree, but this is Web3 is in a very early stage, and this is totally normal. So let's start answering the question of what is Web3. So the term was coined by the Ethereum co-founder Gavin Wood in 2014, right? And he mentioned that this term is from him. So this is an idea for a new interaction on the World Wide Web that incorporates decentralized based on blockchain. So let's do a structural, let's talk about a structural example here. So servers and services will be decentralized on Web3. Right? So that will prevent data monopoly, censorship, data manipulation, and traffic shaping, right? So we just have a diagram here. So in this case, all the nodes, so all the clients here are also servers for a layer of Web3, right? Not for everything, but everything will make sense to you pretty soon. So let's say I have content, right? And I serve this content from, not from a server, a central server, but from the devices that have this content cached on them. So it could be desktops, a laptop, or even a cell phone, right? So let's say you can serve images, you can serve videos, you can serve data, right? And this is how it works. So we don't know exactly how Web3 would look like, because there is a lot of things to still happen to evolve in this area. And let's see. So what is, we are not talking about semantic web here. So Web3 is pretty often used as also for semantic web, which is just a machine readable version of HTML, to make it simple, right? So HTML is not that good for machine processing. So there are some efforts even on W3C to create new standards. Also, this is not about cryptocurrencies, but this is strongly related. So we'll focus this presentation on the blockchain technology that most of the cryptocurrencies uses, but please, we are not making any investment advice here. We'll mention some cryptocurrencies and blockchain solutions. This is not our goal. And to be totally honest with you, there is no relation, unfortunately, between the technical side of those projects and how the cryptocurrencies are doing in the market. So why is Web3 important? So 60% of the global data is under control of those few companies, right? So Amazon, Facebook, Alibaba Group, Google, and Microsoft. So that means power concentration. So the data, let's say the people's data over the world are concentrated in a very few companies, right? So let's say you have a service hosted on a hosting service, right? A hosting provider. They can just remove your data, right? They can turn off your accounts. They can even shut down your service, right? So let's say you, for some reason, you don't apply to a specific contractual rule. I don't know, but this is possible to happen, right? Also, let's suppose a government is involved in a corruption schema, and I am a journalist, okay? Just a supposition here. So I have proof of that, and I want to make it public online, right? So I can have my data, my website controlled or by traffic shaping, right? So that many people will not have access to this. So just one example, here in Brazil, I am Brazilian, by the way. So WhatsApp was pretty often shut down in Brazil by court decisions, right? Which many perceive to be politically biased. It may not be the case, but this is the public's perception, right? Also, Web3 is really important because it reduces drastically latency. So instead of having, let's say, a central server in the East Coast, for example, you have your content distributed across all those devices that I mentioned before. And the cool thing about this is that all the data that is cached on those devices can also be served, right? So let's say you access a website hosted on Web3 for the first time. you can, this is an option, okay, to each one, but you can become a host for this content as well, right? So we'll talk more in depth about IPFS, which is a solution for this, but it's so great that even a single file can be split into many different pieces, small chunks of data. And instead of consuming just from one server, one file, you can consume the same file from many providers or nodes at the same time. Also, it's worth to mention that once people have interest on this data, right? Once this data is cached on their browsers, let's say, this data will be available for everyone, right? So it's not depending on a central server, which can just wipe out your data for any reason, right? It could be even a bug. It could be even a mistake, right? It happens. In this case, your data is distributed across the globe, and you should have access to this. So let's explore the architecture to make it happen. So first of all, we need to make some definitions here. So the first one is about blockchain, right? Blockchain is a database, right? It is a distributed database that is shared among nodes on a computer network. So it guarantees the fidelity and security of a record of data and generates trust without the need for a trusted third party. So there is no central organization to make it happen, right? There is no central server to make it happen. There is a peer-to-peer network that is able to manage all this. I just want to make sure here, so guarantees fidelity and security. So that means that even the data is immutable theoretically, right? So in theory, you could have a 51% attack. I don't want to go too deep in technical terms here, but let's say if you have someone that is able to gather all the computational power to outcome 51% of the remaining processing power for this network, you could theoretically create a fork of the blockchain and write things that are not true or are not guaranteed. But I could say, like, for most part of the blockchains, the most popular ones, this is impossible to do nowadays. All right, so I would just talking about the splitting the files again. It looks like torrents, right? So you have a huge movie, a huge video file, and you can just split this into chunks of, I think it's 264 kilobytes. Also, that makes the data redundant, right? So let's say a server is just shut it down, and so a facility, let's say Google, one of the Google servers is just shut it down, something bad happened, you will still have your content distributed, right? And just to make things clear here, so blockchain is a basic architecture for decentralized distribution of information. All right, so what is necessary in our opinion to make it happen, right? So I don't think that people or even organizations would just host things for free. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't want to share my disk space, my networking capacity, and my CPU power. That represents a cost to me, right? And it doesn't make sense to just give it for free. So we believe that incentives are really necessary to make it happen. So also, returning to the blockchains, they provide a basic architecture for tracking ownership of currency. And this is what we call and we see as cryptocurrencies. So we have some here, right? So I will have some examples of cryptocurrencies and blockchains in a few slides. Also about persistence. So sometimes we want our application data available forever. Again, immutably, unalterable historical data records. So blockchains provide this basic architecture. I would just like to add the concept of smart contracts here as well, because smart contracts is the concept of using the blockchain to store like real life contracts. Let's say you sold a house, so you need to register the sale process, and you can do this by the smart contracts. So this is like a extension of the blockchain technology itself. All right, so just a take-home message here. Blockchains provide the basic architecture for many pieces of the higher Web3 architecture. We'll talk about more pieces soon. All right, so now we'll go deeper on what we need for a modern web experience, right? So we try to make the exercise of comparing to Web 2, right? So what we have now and what is necessary to make the same things using Web 3, okay? So we'll go through each one of those topics here. So the first one is about transactions and smart contracts. So those are, I just have a few examples here. So Ethereum that I already mentioned before, this is a blockchain that was created purely for storing smart contracts. This is Ethereum's goal, right? And by now, it is the most successful cryptocurrency or blockchain technology in terms of adoption in the market right now. So there is another company called Definity, right? I don't know exactly how to spell it, but this company produces a product called Internet Computer Protocol, which is a proposal for now for creating all those pieces that we mentioned here to make Web3 possible, right? So they provide blockchain connectivity. They provide like easy APIs to be able to create static content, right? Also, I would like to mention here Horizon, which is a blockchain solution and cryptocurrency as well. And those guys are focusing on a technology called Zendu. Zendu is a sidechain solution. So it is pretty costly, let's say, to write things directly on blockchain. So just one example, to add some data to Ethereum right now on the main chain, you'll most likely spend $200 for a single record, right? So Horizon tries to solve this problem by making it easy to people to create their own side chains, right? So side chains are basically separate chains that are able to communicate with a main chain, right? So side chains, main chains have a very, they have a bottleneck, which is, for example, for Bitcoin, each record on the blockchain, so you can make up to 4 records currently to the Bitcoin blockchain. In Ethereum, you can make 15 records by second in Ethereum, but this is totally unacceptable, right? Whoever worked with databases know that this is not sufficient. So Horizon tries to make it easier to create new blockchain copies, and you can integrate easily with the existing ones, including Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? So about file distribution, right? So I think that the biggest player on this is IPFS, which we will demonstrate soon. So IPFS is interplanetary file system, and it does exactly what I described it before. So they distribute your content between all the nodes. So everyone that has IPFS installed in their machines will automatically start hosting 10 gig up to 10 gigs of files in the hard disk. And this will build the cache, and other people will automatically start consuming. You automatically start to be a data provider for IPFS. I really like this technology. Flick, no, I will go first to Filecoin here. So Filecoin is a layer to IPFS. It's an extension of the IPFS protocol. So it adds a reward layer to IPFS. So that means that people that host data using Filecoin, they are able to make some money, right? Flick and Pinata are both services. I would say that they are not actually Web3 services, because what they do is they are central services that pings the data to IPFS. So what that means? So let's say I want to keep a data available to everyone. So let's say there are no sufficient people or nodes hosting this data. Okay, so it might be difficult to the IPFS protocol to find your data and to provide to other people. So those two services here, they were created to pin your data, to make sure that this data will not be wiped out or garbage collected after they reach, for example, the 10 gigs that I mentioned before. And they work like S3 on the AWS, just to make a comparison here. And also the Internet Computer Protocol by Definitely, they also provide a solution disconnected from IPFS that does exactly the same, right? So another thing that we think that is extremely important to make Web3 possible is the basic attention token, BAT. So this is I don't know how much of you know this browser called Brave, but this is a solution created by Brave. This browser is based on Chrome, so works pretty similar. By the way, I'm using Brave right now, and they have a focus on privacy, and they have some interesting solutions. So one of those solutions are BAT. And BAT is basically a token, or money, in other words, that people receive by seeing advertisements, right? So a publisher will make an advertisement, will promote an advertisement, and the user will also be paid to see a small amount of money to see those advertisements. In reality, like just as a regular user, you cannot just like use the tokens that you have. You need to use by donating to a content creator, right? So that ends the cycle. So everyone is happy here. So the publisher is happy. The content creator is happy because he's like showing advertisements on his website and making money from this. And also the user has the option to see advertisements or not. So you know that ad blockers are very common right now, and this technology here solves possibly this problem. Another piece that is necessary for this is computing power. And to be honest with you, I don't think that there is a real solution for this yet in the market. So I did a lot of research on this, and I will mention the Boink project. So this project was created on Berkeley, and they are basically a network computing system. So Berkeley created this on the SETI program in order to find intelligent alien life. And now it's being used for many things, and it's being heavily used for research on COVID vaccines, things like that, different areas of sciences. So this is not based on blockchain, but I honestly think that this is a good inspiration to build something based on the blockchain and really distribute it. By the way, this is not also distributed. So if you submit, let's say you are a scientist, you submit a project, you need to get people's approval in order to have computing power to process your data. I found very recently another one called Elephant. It is still in a very early stage, and that one might be a good solution for this. And just comparing AWS Lambdas, for example, I think that this solution intends to produce something that is really close to that. But as I mentioned, this is still in early stage, and we shall see. So to be able to connect to Web3, we'll have for sure new protocols, right? So it will not access content probably by using HTTPS or HTTP on your browser, right? So we need browsers that are compatible with Web3. So nowadays, Brave and Opera are in a really good position on doing this. So both of them, you can just use the IPFS and IPNS protocols that I will describe to you soon. But you can also install a plugin called Companion. And I would say any browser. I'm not sure if Safari supports Companion, but I know that Edge supports, Firefox does as well. And it just adds all the capabilities of IPFS or Web3 to those browsers. So also another important part to this is IPFS search and IPSE. So both are searches mechanisms, but the sad thing is that you can type anything, right? So we'll go through the demo really soon. I was never able to see my content that I uploaded to on any of those services. So this is a huge gap that we still have, and we'll talk about this later. All right, so let's go to the demonstration. All right. So my goal here, oops, just one second. So my goal here is to make some content available on the IPFS network. I want to pin my content. I want to be able to access this content using the IPFS protocol. I will make one change to the project and redeploy, and I will show you how to configure DNS. Okay, so I will start by showing the content here. So I will do this. So this is a very, very basic code. So the goal here is not do something fancy. The goal here is just to show something to you and make it public on Web3. So this is the code. This is how it looks like, right? So let's go through this process and make a new publication. So you see here we have some exclamations. I will return to my code here. I'll just remove it, and that will be our control of, yeah, to see if my new code was deployed or not. All right. Okay, I think John, can everyone see my text here? Okay, cool. So
yeah, we can see it, Paulo.
Good. So I will start making sure that I have my daemon for IPFS working here. In this case, I'm not using the embedded version on the browser. This is a Go implementation, and this is the standard implementation for IPFS. If you want to take it seriously and do your own implementation of IPFS, I would recommend to go with the Go version. So as you see, I have already a process log for this, so I know that this is running. Okay, so I am inside my project here. Okay, I will just list my content here, so I have an index file and some images inside of it. So I will add this content to IPFS. And this is what was done. So if I take this hash here, and this is something worth to mention here as well. So all the content is addressed now by a binary, a hash produced from the binary content, right? So if I just copy this hash here and I go IPFS and paste this hash, look, I see my new content with all the exclamation points here, right? So this is working, that worked. Now, if I do any change here, I would just return the exclamation points here. So let's add it again, right? So I just saved it. And if I hit the website again, I see the same thing, right? Because as the content is based, as the hash was produced from the binary content from those files, I need to re-add this, okay? So you can see that I produced a new hash here. So this is pretty bad, right? I don't want to make people memorize things like this, right? So the first step to solve this problem is to use something called IPNS, which is basically a name service for my content. So by doing this, all my changes will be attached to one single hash that will be created. So I will just run this comment here. Oops, I missed one thing here. What? Name publish. Nope. Okay, sorry guys. This is IPFS here. All right, so it will take a while. In average, it takes 1 minute, but a new hash will be produced here, and I can, by using this new hash here, now I can access my content by using the IPNS protocol. Oops. Why is it not copying? All right, so here we have our exclamation points here as well. So, and if I do something like, if I set up a record in my DNS provider, similar to this one, I will not go through the DNS process here, but if I just add a record with those parameters here, and I already did it, right? So I did this on the amplifilabs.com website. So if now I just go to IPNS amplifilabs.com, I can see my content, right? Cool. Let's return to the presentation. So what are the current challenges for Web3? So the first one is complexity and cost. And you know that they are the same thing, right? So complexity usually adds costs to things. So this is based on blockchain solutions. This is based on peer-to-peer networks, and this is based on encryption. So you can realize that this is not easy to implement. Also, that costs a lot. So companies need to pay for this, right? So this is why the vast majority of solutions are also crypto coins projects, because they can auto, how can I say? They can feed the development of those projects with money produced from those cryptocurrencies. So I already mentioned about those two guys here, but they don't work at all, right? So I can try to just type anything on one of those services here that I have included in my demonstration here. And by the way, this demonstration is running more than 30 days right now, and they were not indexed and at all on those services. So without search engines, honestly, I don't see how it is possible to make people use something like that, right? Also, about computing power, let's say this is not just about consuming data from a database and sending in a JSON format as an API. Let's say I want to heavily process this data, right? So we don't have solutions for this yet. I cannot train an AI model, for example, in a distributed network currently, right? Also, we don't see any DNS replacements. So in the demonstration that I just did, I did this using a regular DNS authority, right? So this is not decentralized at all. Also, as we need it is hard to find professionals that are able to work and implement those technologies. So you need to train them. This is the reality. If you want one, plan to train one, because there are very few professionals available. I would say not available at all, right? The few ones that exist. Also, corporate goals are different from distributed network goals, right? So companies have a tendency to aggregate control to secure the future of the business. So this is what everyone does. This is normal. And at the other hand, distributed networks have a tendency to distribute control to secure the future of the network. So you can see that those pieces doesn't match that well, right? Also, government regulation. So governments are concerned about loss of control and illegal activity. So for example, tax evasion, right? You use cryptocurrencies or blockchain technology to transfer goods, and not in the side of governance. So that the consequence of this is that the privacy cryptocurrencies are being delisted from markets nowadays. Also, another concern about governments are fake news, right? In the other hands, the citizens are concerned about censorship and freedoms. So people want freedom of speech, and by using the argument of fake news, some people possibly think about electoral manipulation, right? So this is a possibility here. So is Web3 ready for production? Our short answer is no. And it's not because it is more expensive. And I will tell you this here. So to make a record on a blockchain, it costs a lot of money. And even in the side chains, you need to pay gas, which is the technical term on the Ethereum blockchain, for the taxes of transactions. Depending on the amount of transactions that we will have, those costs could be prohibitive. And also we have a lot of missing pieces. As you can see, we have no way to have a decentralized computing power, distributed computer power. We don't have search as mechanisms as well. So this is being a problem. So the future, right? So if we think about chaos, so just one thing to give you the sense. So there is a website called CoinMarketCap, and they list all the solutions for blockchain and cryptocurrencies. And they have more than 17,000 solutions currently. Many of them are scams. Many of them are just worthless projects, right? Some of them are really good, but just to be aware of that. So also chaos is capable of producing amazing things. So one thing that just pops in my mind is Linux, right? So 20 years ago, so we still have like hundreds of different distributions, but the fact is every one of us is running directly or indirectly Linux every day, right? Can be through our devices, can be through servers. The vast majority of the servers nowadays are using Linux. So something good can be created from this chaos. So one thing that we know for sure is that Web3 will produce awesome technologies. We don't know actually how those technologies will be used, but there are many people concentrated on those problems. There are many people creating nice things, and we can have a lot of benefits from this process. All right, so that was the presentation. Thank you very much. And let's see if anyone has any question.
Thank you so much, Paulo. There's a lot of back and forth in the chat box. I think for the most part, most questions were answered. What I'll do is I'll ask John, as he's also been monitoring, the CEO of Amplifi Labs, if there were any questions that were unanswered. John, if you want to address those.
Yeah, key one, Paulo. Do you remember if Companion is open source? I think that's the browser extension.
It is, yes. Everything on IPFS is open sourced. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
I think that was the key only question that I saw as far as technology goes.
Thanks, John. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, they feel free to unmute yourself or put those in the chat box. Now we'll leave that open for a few minutes. And I see that you both put your contact information and your website information there, so that's super helpful. Thank you so much.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi, go ahead.
My name is Mean for John and Paula. Paulo, hey, what would be a good entry point use case for Web3 that the entrepreneurs are very attracted to, or it's easy for a solve?
Yeah, so I would say I have two answers for this question. Okay, so the first one would be making, let's say, so Web3 is on the hype for sure, right? So I would say that it makes sense to, let's say you have a company and you want to make your your website available as Web3 technology currently. I would say this is like an easy thing to do, to just start on Web3. And the second one would be, let's say you have a project, and this is actually a real example that last year we worked on one blockchain project, right? So this project was based on the Ethereum, and it was basically about NFTs. And so if you have a very clear goal that is strictly connected to blockchain and property of something like an NFT, I would say that this is a good starting point. But like for regular things, regular clients, I would not use Web3 for anything. I would use on those two cases. One, if the technology that you are selling or presenting to others is strictly related to blockchain, and or if you want to enjoy the hype, advertise your product or company website using Web3. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, I think it's pretty good. Just a quick follow up on it. I wouldn't take more time. So when we are doing the development of any of these, do you suggest to use or do you recommend to use Brave as a browser of a choice for the development, or if I use Chrome, will that have a lot of challenges?
You can use Chrome. No, with no problem at all using Chrome. You just need to install IPFS companion to do so. And if you are doing something related to Ethereum, then for sure you need to install MetaMask in your browser as well, which is a wallet sidechain manager, something like that. Right. So you can have both in Chrome, and you can just use Chrome, no problem at all.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys.
Sure. One other thing I'd like to add on to what Paulo was saying in response to your question. One reason that we asked this question of ourselves and then set out to try and answer it was because we suspected that there were tons of layers to this entire system that were yet underdeveloped. And the web as we know it today wasn't produced overnight. It took a very long time. And there were many layers built one on top of the other. And I would add that it's the same thing here. There are, what we demonstrated to ourselves when we looked at it was there are so many layers of needs that are, not only just yet to be developed, but yet to be understood, right? There are many things that people think they understand about how it's going to work, but they're just assumptions right now. And the way that we assume it's going to work may not be reality as well. So there's a ton of layers for other research and other development activity to take place underneath everything as well.
Okay.
There are a couple questions here. One from Ryan. Can a cryptocurrency confer carbon sequestration credits? Is there any case study of this having been done? I don't know of a case study of it having been done. Paulo, I don't know if you.
So I don't know any like real example for this, but I am aware that there are some people thinking about this.
Yeah, I would say there's no, cryptocurrencies and blockchain in itself is just a distributed ledger, right? So, tracking ownership of things and transfer of ownerships of things, that's sort of its core competency as it's currently understood. So there's no reason why it couldn't be used to confer, those sorts of credits. And I mean, to be totally honest with you, I'd be astonished if, there aren't case studies of that being done, or that there's not a product already out there for that. But if there isn't, that's a interesting use case.
That's right.
Let's see, looking at some more questions. If you are familiar with the Helium Network, how does their commercialization work financially? With all the shortcomings explored in this webinar, how does their system work? I've heard of the Helium Network. I'm not super familiar with them. Paulo, are you?
I never used it. Yeah.
Yeah. So go ahead, Paulo.
Yeah, so this is this is a side chain. I can be totally wrong, but I think this is a side chain for Ethereum, right? I'll just check it here.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we're not familiar enough to provide a good answer to you, David. We'd be happy to chat offline more about it. Like I said, we've heard of them, but we haven't dug into their technology specifically in depth. But feel free to shoot us an email, and we'd love to follow up with you.
Yeah, and also just adding to this, so the number of solutions are huge, right? And like talking with people about this will be the solidification process to make one of those options the chosen one, right? We don't have a clear winner for many of those things that we need for Web3 right now. I will take a deeper look on Helium.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good question, David. Thanks for asking that one.
Awesome. Those are all the questions I'm seeing. I don't know, John, if you see any more.
I don't think so. I think those were it. If we missed one, somebody just yell out.
Yeah, please feel free to unmute yourself. For those that may have come late, this is being recorded. The whole session was recorded. So you'll be able to find it on Riot's YouTube channel on the meetup group where you registered. There was one question that just came in from Mark. What was the site listing Web3 projects?
Sorry, Caroline, can you repeat?
What was the site listing the Web3 projects that you shared, Paulo?
It was CoinMarketCap. So it's not about, I will just open it here. So it's not about listing blockchain, but cryptocurrencies, but they are strongly related. Just 1 second. So CoinMarketCap, this is the one. So as you can see here, there are 17,454 solutions out there. Yeah, that was the site.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, everyone. Well, Amplifi Labs has signed up to do several more lunch and learns on different topics. They always come with some really amazing topics. So stay tuned for more information on those. Of course, we host these virtual sessions every Wednesday from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern. And we are starting to get back to in-person, so stay tuned and follow riot.org to find out more about those sessions. Again, thank you to John and Paulo for being here with Amplifi Labs and for being partners of Riot. We appreciate you all, and I appreciate everyone for attending. Thanks for being here, y'all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you
Take
very
care.
much.
Bye.